The only guy who ever comes close to saying anything is Nick Kyprios.
Oh, yeah.
And he's our guy.
Kyprios has been the guy the whole time being
Yeah.
like, this guy has not done what they told him to do.
Where's your captain, JB?
Yeah.
But
Mike, the word is out. Tweet from Darren Dreger today. Expect the Toronto Maple Leafs to name Auston Matthews captain on Wednesday. This is part of the evolution of Matthews as a leader, and current Maple Leafs captain John Tavares fully supports the change. Tavares has been heavily involved in the process with GM Brad Treliving. This is huge news, obviously. This is 32 thoughts about John Tavares giving up the captaincy of the Maple Leafs, presented by the all-new GMC Sierra ATV. Where were you when you first heard about this momentous occasion and saw this tweet from Darren Dreger?
I have to talk quietly here because I am trying not to disturb anybody here in the press room at CBC.
At the Ford Performance Center?
Yes. Yeah, I've staked out my spot already for the press conference. I will be dressed as I'm thinking we're gonna go as Luke Fox jukebox for this press conference on Wednesday. Driving
Excellent.
up, I was washing dishes, and I don't think I will forget that. I was holding a sponge that's yellow and pink. I don't think I'll ever forget that sponge or that pot that I was washing coming out of it, and I was alone in the kitchen because Isla and was getting a bath upstairs, and I ran to tell Emily the news, and she said, "Oh, okay," and and I went back and I continued to celebrate it internally, basically. And my favorite thing so I'm blocked by Darren Dreger, as we all know from the when I asked him, I can't remember what I said, but it's something about when he said Ilya Sorokin to Chicago was like a done deal.
Yes.
And I got blocked for that. So but I saw the tweet through, whatever. It's pretty easy to see tweets by people you're blocked. And that tweet and the Chris Johnston article on The Athletic, it's almost reads like one of those articles where someone, like maybe a politician or something happens and maybe they get asked to step aside from an election, and
right,
and they're like, out of respect, please, that we're not gonna ask him any questions. Like, please respect his privacy at this time.
Right. Yeah, something terrible happens. And
yes. Yeah. And what the language of those tweets and the stories have really driven home to me is that for such a brutal media market, the Toronto media, people in the Toronto media love to say, it's a tough media market for us to play for players to play in, because the media is so crazy here, even though they are the media. Like, they are talking about themselves, but they always project it out as if, well, everybody else is the crazy one. I'm not a part of that. It's the media, not me. I'm just a 1930s Grantland bowler derby cap journalist. I would never do something like be crazy and sniff John Tavares' garbage to see what's going on. But what it's shown me is that they, for such a brutal media market, never have I seen a captain or a player of a headliner, so to speak, be treated with such kid gloves as this guy.
Yeah.
It's incredible that the way that he's been treated. This has been to this point, right? That we're gloating. We've won a battle. This is definitely not the war.
Right.
But we're gloating here. And the way that everybody is handling, like, the wording, you can see how carefully these people are writing everything. Don't say he was stripped of the captaincy. This is Auston Matthews. He's handing it. He is bestowing the captaincy. This isn't King Edward VIII abdicating the throne right in the middle of, like, Hitler taking over Germany. This is not anything like that. This is a peaceful transition of power, and we should be lauding Tavares for doing it. It's incredible to watch.
Yeah. And it just goes to what we've been talking about this entire time, which is that these folks absolutely hate the way that the Islanders fans treat John Tavares when he comes to Long Island, still to this day. And that's because it is the complete 180-degree opposite of how they treat John Tavares. Like, and the funny thing is, like, Tavares takes a lot of abuse on Twitter and on social media for many of the faults that he has, and we can talk all about them as we go through this. But yeah, from the people that matter, and no offense to any Leafs fans out there on Twitter, he is treated 100% with kid gloves, and you can see this is going to be very, very carefully disseminated, very, very carefully written about. There's not going to be any discussion about sort of like the faults that this guy has had, the way that this team has failed in the first 6 years of that 7-year contract to accomplish really anything. I mean, they made it out of the first round one time, and even still, and we talked about this, with when the Leafs were eliminated this year, which is that they keep talking about how we were right there. Tavares amongst them. We were right there. We were so close. It hurt so much because we were right there. Right there for what, dude? The second round of the playoffs? Is that what the goal is, to make the second round? Because I thought it was a little bit higher than that. At least it should be for most teams anyway.
Yeah, you got one game further than you did with the Islanders against the
Right.
Penguins in 2013.
Yeah, exactly.
Right there. Nobody on that team was saying, "Oh, we're right there."
Exactly.
Keith O'Coin was. People weren't saying, "Oh man, they just got to extend Keith O'Coin because they're right there."
Yeah.
Amazing.
I'm looking at the article here at the Athletic, and it says in part, this isn't a whole thing. I think it just came down now, so expect about 50 more articles about this
Oh
at
my
the
God.
Athletic
Yeah,
before the end of the week. Yeah.
speaking of like, it deserves one of those things where like, please respect his privacy at this moment. It also, it feels like one of those stories where you read at the New York Times. It's like, this is a developing story.
Yes.
We don't have all the the facts yet.
This will be updated but it says here, the leadership shakeup comes after extensive internal discussions in the wake of a 7-game first-round loss to the Boston Bruins in May. That sentence, by the way, could come from any of the like 3 out of the last 5 years, but
just the one in isolation. It was just the one playoff loss. Don't ask about the other 6 or 7 seasons.
Senior front office members ultimately concluded that it was time for a change, and that Matthews, already the team's top player, was ready to take over the next step in his evolution as a leader. So, evolution as a leader. This isn't about John Tavares. This is about Auston Matthews. And in fairness, let's just get it out of the way. Sure, make Auston Matthews the captain of the Leafs. Who cares? Like, yeah, the guy's a great player. Make him. To me, I wouldn't lead. This guy couldn't lead me into a KFC if I was hungry. But that's neither here nor there. I don't work for the guy. I don't play with the guy. Maybe he's a great leader. I don't know. But fine. Okay, great. Make a good player, captain your team. That's the way it goes. This is about like Matthews taking the leadership mantle, not about Tavares losing the leadership mantle. And in fact, the third paragraph here is Tavares was involved in those talks and is believed to have supported the handoff to Matthews. Yeah, I'm sure he did, because they're like, John, you're giving up this seat.
Yeah.
Like, we can't have you come back. We have not traded you. We have not traded Mitch Marner. The core is still coming back. We've signed a bunch of guys that we hope are going to be good. We need to make a change, and this is it. So it's, what's he going to say? No, I think it should be Morgan Riley. Like, okay, you're outvoted. We go to Matthews. So, this is going to be a very, very funny thing to read as we sort of tiptoe. It's a little bit like the Sidney Crosby thing. Like, nobody wants to say that Crosby doesn't want to leave Pittsburgh, but he doesn't want to play for a shit Penguins team, right? So we're going to be dancing around this idea, Kyle Dubas is brought in, he's going to make all these changes. Dude, that team is going to stink. But Crosby doesn't want to pack any bags and leave. And frankly, I wouldn't either. Good for him. I wouldn't want to leave either. But that means he's probably going to miss the playoffs for the last 5 years of his career, which he also doesn't probably want to. So
I didn't think we'd be bringing up Crosby at all today, but I'm happy you did, because as you were saying that, it actually kind of reminds me of the way that Crosby is handled as well by the media. He is written about like, Tom Hanks is written about. Like, nobody dares say a bad word about him,
right.
In fear of like, it's like going after Betty White, basically, right? Like, you're not supposed to do it. It's an unwritten rule in the media that there's just some folks that are off limits because everybody has agreed that they represent something bigger than just getting swept by the Islanders in 2019, et cetera. Like, they are bigger than that. They are and Tavares was kind of supposed to be that too.
Right.
I mean, the way when he came to Long Island, he came as the next Sidney Crosby type prospect. He turned out to not be that at all. He
Mm.
turned out the Islanders, obviously, they'll be ruining the day that they didn't draft Victor Hedman in front of him instead of him. But and I think that they all just adopted the media kind of just adopted that we're going to handle this guy. There's just some folks that we just are going to handle this, follow the Sidney Crosby, Wayne Gretzky notebook,
Yeah.
which or playbook. Like we just cannot. When Wayne Gretzky's dad died, like there,
Yeah.
um, the country of Canada like had like a crazy like mourning day because the Gretzky's cultural impact in Canada is just so massive. Like we can't believe it. And
Mm.
Crosby is like on that path, and Tavares does his resume doesn't deserve his NHL resume does not deserve to be on that path either.
Mm.
But for some reason, because he was they had kind of anointed him to be treated this way when he came to the island, and then when he went to Toronto, they've just kept doing it. He just never gets any criticism, and I think it's. By the way, don't overlook the fact that Darren Dreger and Chris Johnston are like the ones who
Yeah.
were first reporting this. It's the Leafs circled the wagons and said, "Okay, like we got to go to to our big guys. We got to get the Peyton Manning and Tom Brady of water carrying in here, and we'll get them to work together, even though they work for different companies here." I guess they actually work for TSN together, but Drager at TSN we'll hit the Eastern Front with Drager, we'll hit the Western Front with CJ at the Athletic, and those guys will do a great job, and they did. I mean, if you want to see the PR masterclass by folks that aren't on your payroll,
Mm.
the way that these guys are going to be talking about is amazing. You're not going to see the word stripped in any of their
Right.
editing or their copy,
Mm.
and if it's in there, their editors are going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
Their editor might be like, we keep using this word. Like, why don't I say stripped? I think it's a little more,
Mm.
I don't know. It's got a little more oomph to it. No, you cannot. He's
Yeah.
not being stripped. He is moving aside with grace and honor. He's won so much here. He deserves a much more classy way, an elegant way of his story being told.
Yeah.
So, these guys, they're going to be on one here. This could be one of many emergency podcasts this week for us. A couple,
Mm.
maybe Master Leaf theaters, because it's going to be a fun couple days. But as we said, it is just a battle. It's a big battle.
Yeah.
It does feel maybe like the tides are shifting a bit in our directions. It have been, but there's still a long way to go before we're holding up those newspapers at the park at Belmont that
Yeah.
say it's over, but it's not there yet.
Well, what we would be holding up would be Pierre LeBrun's tweet that you retweeted before from October 2nd, 2019, in all capital letters. John Tavares is the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then you quote tweeted because, you of course saved this
Oh yeah,
because I think I have this saved somewhere too. But you quote tweeted saying John Tavares is no longer the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's true. I'm looking at Sportsnet's story right here, and again, it's just a staff thing.
yep.
Tavares' name appears 1, 2, 3 times in the first couple of paragraphs, and it's like a 9-paragraph thing. Matthews' name appears 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So a lot more. Again, it's
Yeah,
not about Tavares. It's about
no,
Matthews. And it's like, no, I'm pretty sure this is about Tavares. Like, you can sugarcoat it any way you want. And again, naming Auston Matthews captain your team is fine, but this is about a guy who was signed to an 7-year, $11 million per year contract in the biggest free agency sweepstakes the NHL had seen to that point. I guess we've seen a couple more since then, but that was the biggest one to that date. He left the only team that he had known, a put upon bastard child of a team that was looking for a superstar and would have built that man a statue had he signed. They took their guy. He went home. This was Johnny Canuck going home to his hometown to lead his hometown boyhood team to a championship that they had yearned for 50 whatever years, because he had the bed sheets, and this is a guy who was so distraught about leaving his former club that he had a picture at the ready that he tweeted. I think that was his last tweet. The guy doesn't barely tweets, right? He had that picture at the ready to put out because this was his homecoming moment. This was the big thing. This was the guy who was destined to lead this team to glory. Finally, after all these years, he was the final piece of the puzzle. And in 6 years, they have spent a total of 5 games in the second round of the playoffs. 5. 5. Now, again, there's a war going on. This is just one battle. But so far, this man he's had some great individual seasons. Another famous turn of phrase from a PR machine that we can name, the Lou Lamoriello PR machine. It's some individual success he's had. But those days are also kind of far away, right? Like the last couple of seasons,
Yeah.
they haven't been that good. I mean, for a guy making $11 million, should be doing a lot more. And so now they have decided
that
that
line kind of looks like, Bo Horvat or
yeah,
Brock Nelson.
yeah, guy who's making half that, or a little more than half that. So they could dress this up about Matthews all they want and crown Matthews and make this his big coronation. I get all that. And if I was them, I would do that too. But make no mistake, this is about a guy who was signed to lead this team to a Stanley Cup in 7 years. And in 6 years, he has done not that.
Yep.
Far from that, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
The Islanders have gotten closer to a Stanley Cup than he has. Don't forget that. Don't.
And remember that when he was, and this is my favorite thing about this LeBron tweet, and like as you said, I've been saving this, and it crosses your mind when something like this happens, something calamitous, I guess, is when you're a
Right.
sports fan, like John, you're the guy who you said, right? He's supposed to be your savior. For a franchise that was in desperate need of a savior, because a savior leads to a new building, it leads to richer owners, and leads to winning, and that cycle then could sustain itself. I mean, look what Sidney Crosby did in Pittsburgh, right? Look what Alex Ovechkin has done for the Capitals. The Islanders were so desperate of any team this side of Southwest, the American Southwest, like this side of Arizona. The Islanders in the NHL were the team that was the most desperate for a character like this in their story, and they got him. And they got him. And then to watch this whole thing unfold, and then to watch that guy, he leaves, etc. And then the Leafs have this huge ceremony to make him their captain, right? It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And the guy and Pierre LeBrun, exclamation, full Pierre, by the way. Pierre is, I want to say he's like the picture of professionalism, but this was something completely out of character for him.
Right.
Like he doesn't, when Jamie Benn was named the captain of the Dallas Stars, he wasn't rolling around in mud, shouting, kicking and screaming that Jamie Benn was named the captain of the Dallas Stars.
I'm not going to do this, but did LeBron tweet anything about Anders Lee being named Islanders captain when succeeding John Tavares? I mean, maybe I'm not kidding. Maybe he did. Yeah, just like, the Islanders named Anders Lee captain today, succeeding John, probably something like that. I'm sure it wasn't at all in capital letters.
No. Yeah, exactly. This as someone had commented under my tweet, like, that, why was he fangirling? And I was like, we know the answer to all this. But so when this all happened, and then you're so in the dumps because what you were on the path to believing was happening. Finally, something good, something sustainable, something enjoyable is happening to the Islanders, who are in desperate need of it. So you're excited, and then it gets ripped from you. And we reacted the way we did with a podcast that day that we always talk about, and people, when they ask if about Islanders anxiety, they always say, "Oh, I remember the podcast about Tavares leaving. It was pretty helpful, etc." These thoughts cross your mind, like maybe it'll all work out, but you kind of shoo them away because the chances are they're not. Like the Leafs have so many good players, they have so much money, they have every break in the book, like outside of the salary cap, they get their way. And then Tavares gets named captain, and you see that tweet from LeBron. In my head, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna save it, and then I'm gonna stash it somewhere. I slacked it to myself at work. That's what I did. And I think I emailed it to myself too, because I'm like, I want to stash it somewhere that I won't be able to see it, because I don't want to think, oh, I can't wait for the day to be able to just enjoy this tweet again. And yeah, like I said, I shoo those thoughts out of my head because it was 5 years ago, and I'm like,
Mm.
there's so much we have so much more runway with this thing. Now we're getting closer to the end, and getting a moment like this to resurface that, man,
Mm.
this is what sports are about. Like, I don't care what anybody thinks. Yeah, it's incredibly petty
Yeah.
that we're doing an emergency podcast on a August evening in
Right.
a beautiful day, one of the best days of the whole
Sure.
summer temperature-wise. We should
Mm.
be, taking a walk in the neighborhood and reveling in it, but instead we're
Mm.
here, and it's petty, but it
Mm.
feels so good, and this is what sports are about. It's about wins and losses, and this is a huge win for
Yeah.
those, who know. Like,
Right.
at this point, the way I almost sum up being an Islander fan is you're either one of us or you're one of them, and that doesn't mean you're an Islander fan, but, like, you either get it
Or you
or you
don't.
don't, and
Yeah.
there's just a direct line down the middle between us, and for
Yeah.
those of us who are one of us, like, this is a huge, huge day. I'm one of my favorite nights, of the summer. Probably get to
Yeah.
look back on this and remember where I was forever,
Yeah.
which is so sad.
Oh no, I mean I've said it for a long time. Like it's like being in the mafia or being a fan of Rush. You're either in all the way or you're not in
Yep.
at all. Like you're either there are no casuals for us, like for the Islanders fans. There really aren't. Doesn't really work that way. Um, but real quick before I get on to what I was gonna say, can I give you a tip? I'll give everybody this little tip here. You know where I stash my stuff? Twitter is a hellscape. It's absolutely the worst website in the world, and the minute I can leave there, I probably will. I really should have by now, but I'm still on there against my better judgment. I stash this stuff in the bookmarks because then people really can't see it, so they don't really know that you're kind of building this scrapbook of Leafs Schadenfreude, which is at least what I'm doing with it. But you don't really see it either because nobody really looks at that stuff. So like that's
Yeah.
kind of where I stash it. Because if you keep it in the likes, people might see it and you might look like kind of petty. But if you put it in the bookmarks, nobody really knows how petty you are, and except you. Obviously, I'm telling all you guys how petty we are. I mean, we're all thinking the same thing, but I'm just saying that's what I've been doing. But anyway, I'm looking at Tavares' numbers here because we were just talking about the way it's kind of gone for him. So, can I ask you a question? What was Tavares' highest point total as a Leaf? Do you happen to know off the top of your head?
Ooh, I'm gonna guess around 85.
Okay, good guess. 88, actually. That was his first year with the Leafs. 47 goals, still a career high, 88 points. Do you know what his high point total for a season when he was with the Islanders is?
Ooh, well, it was maybe that year that he almost won the Hart, or
Hmm. Yeah. What
so
about Ross?
8.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What was it? 84.
Close. 86.
Wow,
So his high points with the Leafs is 88. His highest points with the Islanders is 86.
amazing.
Now he did have
Well, he
47
was
goals with the Leafs.
toiling away,
Yeah, he was
for
toiling
those.
away. He had 47 goals with the Leafs that first year. It's really good, obviously. He had 36 last year. Not last season, but the season before. Those are both pretty good. His highest goals, 38 with the Islanders and 37 his last year with the Islanders. So, like, it's so funny that people talk about him in a way that, they didn't, like you said, they treat him with kid gloves. When he was with the Islanders, and we talked about this extensively, it was never about, boy, this guy's really good. Boy, the Islanders are lucky to have him, and he should be a star there for a long time. It was, when can this guy get out of that piece of garbage team and come to a real team? We heard that for 9 seasons. 9 seasons. That was the story with this guy. Boy, he's really good. Maybe he should go play for some real team. 9 seasons of that. And his point totals and aside from that one, 10 goal outburst and extra goal outburst in 2018-19, his numbers have more or less been the same that they were when he was with the Islanders. So like, it's just, we could call it petty, and yes, I guess it is. Again, it's a Monday night. We're sitting here talking about this, but like, it's just, to me, we have lived a reality that a lot of other sports fans have not lived.
Right.
And I think that's what kind of brings us together. And it's like, it's not just about hating this one guy, although we do, and he's the focus of that hatred, but it's about, nobody else has had to live through this experience of like drafting this guy first overall, having him be your team savior. This is the guy. And I wrote about this at Lighthouse Hockey. It was one of the first things I wrote about, and fan posts I wrote about. This guy, he exhibited a stability that this team had not exhibited as a franchise for years. And he was the guy. He was the rock. It was good that he was boring because the Islanders were anything but boring. It was great that he was boring. It was
Right.
perfect that he was boring because he was just good and boring, and they were anything but for a long, 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 long time. And then for him to just up and leave, and again, I don't buy this like he's walked around the pool and really tore himself apart over this decision, because if he did, he wouldn't have that fucking picture at the ready so that he can fucking tweet it the split second he leaves. So I'm not buying that story one bit. To this day, I will never buy that story. And then everything that goes with it, and all this stuff. So
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
To me,
I think
it's
it's
not petty. It's just
a
us.
brilliant way to put it, actually. And we've talked about it so much, but I've never heard you put it that way. And that nobody else has lived through this. No other
Hmm.
fan base in the NHL, at least, and at least through the salary cap era,
Right.
has lived through this kind of.
Yeah.
Um, Other places have dealt with
Yeah.
terrible fan suffering, right? But
Yeah. Well,
nobody's had this happen, right? Patrice
and free
Bergeron didn't leave for the
right.
Montreal Canadiens.
Well, and Steven Stamkos just left Tampa, right? But he left there after 2 straight Stanley Cups,
Yeah,
2 more runs to the final. Like, Stamkos has done everything for the Lightning he could possibly do. So like that free agency, him leaving, I'm sure Lightning fans are going to be sad about it. I mean, he's been a part of their life for a long time, and it's going to look weird, Steven Stamkos, Nashville Predator, but like he's done everything for that team you could possibly do.
right,
So he's the guy. When they were like, "Oh, the Islanders," Tavares doesn't owe the Islanders anything. Bullshit. He owed us the rest of his career. Like,
right.
Steven Stamkos doesn't owe the Lightning anything else because he's done everything. God bless that guy, But like
Yeah,
everybody is, it's just, nobody will ever know this experience but us.
exactly.
So
And when we're told repeatedly over and over and
yes,
over again that the way we act and
right.
uh,
How could you do that?
boo
Yeah,
and hiss at him when he comes is wrong, because where's the class? This is just this is just sports.
right.
It's not that big a deal, bro. You know, like, you're saying that to us. You are the people you just tweeted in all caps as a professional journalist that this guy was named as the captain of the Toronto Maple
Right.
Leafs, like giggling.
Yeah.
It's obviously a big deal to you. It pays your bills as
Mm,
well. But when you're repeatedly told that you are in the wrong for lashing out and
mm,
acting irrationally as a sports fan,
mm.
uh, it 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 puts you into a corner, paints you into a corner, and you feel isolated and alone because there's no, like,
Yeah.
what are you supposed to do as an Islander fan besides lean on other Islander fans? And you do create your own echo chamber, sure, but you're not going to go to a Florida Panthers fan and be like, "Oh my god, man, you just don't understand how I feel because of what John Tavares did." Because you know what they'd say is, "No, I don't, because I didn't have Alexander Barkov just like up and leave
Right.
for nothing and do it the way that Tavares did, and with the media
Right.
pressure and circus from the second he was drafted
Mm.
on." Uh, so yeah, that's why it is petty, and I'm gonna
Mm.
keep saying it's petty, and it is, kind of sad behavior that we're doing this, but it also, for anyone who is listening to this on the other side, right? That
Mm.
whether it's a Leafs fan or whatever, like, I feel so good right now doing it, and I'm sure that people listening to this podcast feel the same way I do, which is that
Mm.
I can't. They're walking around. Maybe you're walking your dog on Tuesday, August the 13th, 2 months away from the start of the
Right.
NHL season, and you just have a big fucking smile on your
Yeah.
face
Right.
because you're listening to two lunatics talk about how 5 years ago this guy was named captain of a
Yeah.
team that is not your team,
Yeah.
and now that is over and it's happening in such a perfect. It is. I'm actually happy the way that this is happening, right, with
Right.
the whitewashing,
Yeah.
because it just adds to the way that the whole thing has.
Mm.
It's more of a, they keep walking down the same path, right? There's been no sharp right turn here where anyone's turning on Tavares, which I don't
Mm.
want to see. At this point, I want them to walk this guy to retirement, to put his jersey in the rafters with his hopefully one playoff series win, and pretend
Mm.
that everything that they thought was going to happen the day that he signed on the dotted line by that pool, and the day that he was named captain, and the day that Toronto had to hold a
Right.
City of Toronto names John Tavares, February 1st, John Tavares, or March 1st, John Tavares Day, because he got his feelings
Booed.
hurt on Long Island last night. Like, the whatever they thought what we were heading towards, the future we were heading towards.
Yeah.
I hope that they just keep walking towards that fake future that this
Yeah.
guy's gonna lead the Leafs from
Mm.
the out of the Stanley Cup drought, because it's the most bizarre way I've ever seen an athlete
Yeah.
treated, and it's so hyper specific, and the Islander fans are the only ones who get it.
Mm.
And it's frustrating to try to explain that to people on the outside. It takes hours and hours. You wrote an encyclopedia about it.
Right.
There was an off-Broadway play written about it. It takes so long to get to the depths to the point where you're talking to someone who's uninitiated,
Mm.
why you feel the specific hurt and joy when when he left, and then now that things are going pear-shaped. Like, takes so long to get to that exact moment where the other person listening to you is like,
Mm.
okay, now I
No,
understand.
I get it.
And
Yeah.
you need a lot of help.
And now a word from our sponsors. First is VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, mugs, and more featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey also carries our Al Arbor and the Island merch, and our portion of the sales always go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. Use the code ANXIETY20 to save 20% off an order of 2 items. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a 2022 Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly.
This episode is brought to you by our good friends at NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. I'm sure by now you've all gotten back into your Sunday routines, but they could be even better. With NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get the most live NFL games all in one place, every game, every Sunday, and you can even watch up to 4 different games at once with Multiview, one of my favorite inventions of this decade. It's exactly what you need to catch all the action. Make your Sundays more magical. And also, YouTube TV is great. I got it this year. It's awesome. Sign up now at youtube.com/BS. Device and content restrictions apply. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. Everybody needs some variety in life. That's what I love about Chumba Casino. They know how to keep things fresh and exciting. All their games are free to play, like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire. You can claim free daily login bonuses, too. And they release new games every week. So spice things up with ChumbaCasino.com now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Well, that's funny because you talk about the sort of future that they're going to. What I find funny, and again, to reiterate, this is only one step in this, and there's still a lot of the Leafs are still a very good team. So there's still many ways for this to work out. But right now we can exult in this. But the thing about it now is that without that C, even if they give him an A, which is probably most likely, or maybe they don't give him anything. The thing about it now is that John Tavares is just a guy.
Right.
He's just a guy now for the Leafs. They're gonna again, Dreger, Johnston, Luke Fox Jukebox, Jonas Siegel, Myrtle, the whole crew, the entire Master Leaf Theater crew is all going to paint this picture of him being, he's a real leader in the clubhouse, whether he's got a letter or not. He's a real leader in the clubhouse there, and what he has, his voice carries a lot of weight. Yeah, okay, sure, but he's really just a guy now.
Yeah,
he's not a guy who needs to be put on the second line, because where else are you going to play this guy? He's going to maybe play on the third line. Maybe he'll play not at all. I don't know. Could you imagine if he's a healthy scratch at some point? Like, he's just a guy now. Like, it's just that's what he is. And I mean, now, in fairness, like the other thing I'm thinking about too is like when Dustin Brown turned over the C and gave it to Anze Kopitar, which got a little bit of play too. But like
Blake
Wheeler. Yeah, Blake Wheeler, I guess, is another one too. But like Brown was very much kind of on his last legs. Like, I mean, in fairness, people were trying to trade Dustin Brown everywhere, even while the Kings were winning Stanley Cups. So maybe this is not a great example, but like he was a guy who was clearly on the downswing of his career, and Kopitar was and still is an absolutely phenomenal player. And it was great that he was captain, and he's been a great captain for the Kings for a long time now. But like Dustin Brown sort of became a guy, like he's just a fourth line guy, but he was always sort of like that, fourth line grindy type, and it wasn't that much of a step off for him. This is a guy going from signing the biggest free agency contract in the league at that time to being just a guy because they couldn't get out of the second round of the playoffs. Like it's a remarkable
because he's failed,
story.
but nobody will say it. Like he's failed as a captain. And to your point, like when Dustin Brown, I remember listening to 32 Thoughts, or back then I guess it was 31 Thoughts, and when Dustin Brown got stripped of the captaincy, nobody had a problem saying he was being stripped of the captaincy then. And Blake Wheeler, it was a big deal. Like it became a story that we were hearing, for 3 or 4 episodes on the Spin on 32 Thoughts. Like, this Blake Wheeler situation with Winnipeg is weird. He's pissed off. Yeah. That's the word you kept hearing. Like Blake Wheeler is kind of pissed off. He had a press conference about like how he didn't like being stripped of the captaincy. Nobody likes it, but I'm here to win, whatever. That is just not going to happen here, because this is like everything else with this so far, as we keep saying, this is still to this day the Tavares regime, the Tavares era in Toronto. Everything so far has been treated as if the Leafs are this, like they are the Boston Bruins. Like they win. They're winning all the time. They run well. The culture's incredible. Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, they already have a ring. Chara, all those guys. They're being treated, or like the Tampa Bay Lightning, like they are, but they're handled like that, like this organization that's accomplished something, but they haven't. Like that's what I don't understand. This is the brutal media market in hockey. It's supposed to be the hardest place to play, and these guys, outside of 2 days every year, which is the day after they get eliminated in the first round, and then the day of locker cleanout day. Aside from those 2 days, they are not treated like that. They are treated as if they've accomplished stuff. Yeah. Like they've won, their banners in the rafters. They've won one division? It was the North Division, the one that was set up for them to win with like six really mediocre teams, and they couldn't get out of the first round again. Like they haven't accomplished anything, but the way that they are talked about, and their captain, the guy who's supposed to lead them, was supposed to be the finishing touch, who was supposed to get them over the line to end the Stanley Cup drought. The way that he has been handled and talked about is so soft that they can't say the words stripped. We're not taking this away. He is giving it up. He's stepping aside. He's making room. Oh my God. How many times are we going to see the words passing the torch?
Yep.
He's passing the torch, because that's what winning teams do. And he knows that after he's led the Leafs to the mountaintop, now it's Auston Matthews' turn to lead them to the mountaintop of getting out of the first round once in 7 years. Like it's so bizarre. Like if this was the Yankees in the George Steinbrenner years, and Derek Jeter was named the captain, and then the Yankees lost in the first round of the playoffs 2 years in a row, Derek Jeter would have spent the rest of his career playing for like the Seattle Mariners or something, or in like the Nippon Ham Fighters in the Japanese league, because Steinbrenner would have run him out of town so fast and so violently. But this guy, you're not allowed to even bring it up, that it's been a failure to this point. We joked on our last mailbag, because I was saying how I've been listening to episodes right after the Leafs got eliminated of Leafs podcasts, whether it be the Leaf Report or Real Kipper Board. Complete lunatic behavior on my part, and I fully admit it, but that I'm now listening to these episodes for like the second and third time through in months after the fact. But when people bring up Tavares' name, it's almost as if like a quiet comes over the room. Like, everyone walks on eggshells a bit. Like, are we going to go there? I don't think we can go there. Like, let's move on. Let's just go back to Marner, because we can't say anything bad about Tavares. Right. The only guy who ever comes close to saying anything is Nick Kypreos. And he's our guy.
Kypreos has been the guy the whole time, being like, this guy has not done what they told him.
Where's your captain, JB? Yeah. But everyone else, like you cannot say a bad thing about this guy. And what makes it even more bizarre is like he's not this effusive, cool kid. Like he's not like the guy that everybody wants to go hang out with and have a beer with. He's a hockey robot.
Yeah.
Who's like Woody from Toy Story. You pull a string and he either says, obviously it's disappointing, but we feel like we're close.
Yeah.
Or he says, it starts with me. And that's it. Like it's so weird that he's handled this way.
I have a theory on that exact thing because we talked about this again in relation to the Islanders fan reaction to Tavares and how personally Leafs media guys take it, and they start doing, they're like, okay, that's enough. It's been 6 years. Like that the guy, how many times have we heard that tweet? We've seen that. My theory is that Tavares is probably the only guy who talks to those guys like a normal human being. Like, I think that, because again, he's a robot, but he's a family man. He's got 3 kids now, a wife, and he's from there. So he knows all the places. I think that he is most likely, if you had a room full of Leafs and a room full of Leafs writers, I think that Tavares is probably the most likely of those Leafs to talk to these guys and give them not so much stories, but like talk to them like a human being. And
he's the only one who hasn't called the cops on
exactly.
Jukebox for rummaging through his trash.
Right. Whereas like Marner is kind of a pipsqueaky guy. He's probably kind of he seems like he's got like a weird sense of humor. Also, I think his dad is always hanging around. I don't want to talk to Mitch Marner. You say something to Mitch Marner, he's going to run to his dad or run to his agent. I don't want to talk to him. Auston Matthews looks like he just wants to literally be anywhere else. Right? He's not from Toronto. Yeah, he's played there for a bunch of years now, but he's an American guy living in Toronto. He just wants to get the hell out of there. You're right. Please, Luke Fox, Jukebox, please stay out of my garbage. Don't follow me home. Don't take pictures of me going out and that kind of thing. Everybody else, Morgan Riley probably just doesn't want anything to do with these guys because they've been shitting on him for this whole time. And I don't know who else, but like I feel like in all fairness, Tavares probably is the guy who talks the most, and I think that's probably why they're closer to him than a lot of other guys because I just don't feel like the other guys really care all that much, or they're going to talk. I don't think they trust them that much, whereas Tavares probably does trust them because, or maybe that's how he ends up getting this sort of kid gloves treatment because he's a lot more friendly with those guys. And not that I don't think he gives them like information or anything like that. Not like he's a leak. He's a source. I don't think it's that, or the sauces as we like to say. But I think that he's much. I feel like he's more prone to hang out with James Myrtle than Auston Matthews, who probably maybe would talk to Myrtle if he had a gun to his head, or had to had like, fine, all right, they want me to talk to you, so I'm going to talk to you or whatever. But like, I just get that feeling because they do take it personally when he comes out and people boo the shit out of him at UBS Arena or the Coliseum or whatever. They do take it personally. Make no mistake. That is his friend. That is their friend. And they don't like seeing him get booed. So they get very upset.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Like he's been the captain, right? You're the guy who has to come out and talk to the media after every game. Yeah, right. And you probably says their names when he addresses them, like Kyle Dubas, which is why they like Kyle Dubas.
Right.
Yeah, so the kid that gloves treatment is crazy. It's to me, and it's starting to make a little bit.
That Dubas connection is probably another reason they like Tavares too.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Buddies, yeah. the guy who brought the guy who was going to get them out of the drought and the guy who got them out of the drought, because they did. Trust me, they won a Stanley Cup a couple years ago with Tavares captaining and Dubas at the helm, and it was great to watch. And drought's over. Trust us. Yeah, and it's not that it drives me up a wall that he gets treated like this. It's that nobody else sees it or talks about the way that this guy's gets treated outside of Islander fans. That drives me up a wall. When to bring this to cricket, which we like to do a lot, there's a saying in cricket that the most important job in Australia is being the captain of the Australian men's Test cricket team, and the second most important job in Australia is the Prime Minister. And in hockey, like, for all we talk about the Leafs and rag on them and the media coverage, they are the Leafs. Like, they are the money driver, the biggest team they are probably the most valuable team in sport. And in hockey, they are the most important franchise probably to the NHL. I get it, like, they are. So you'd think that being the captain of this team, like you are in sort of like that Australian cricket job, right? It's the most important job in Canada is probably the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, followed by the Prime Minister of Canada.
Yeah.
And yet, when the Prime Minister of Canada fails and gets his job, his title stripped away from him, nobody's afraid to say he's getting his title stripped away from him. Blake Wheeler, who's the captain of the Jets, a much less important team in the grand, in the big picture, in the macro of the NHL, he was stripped. But this guy, no, he's stepping aside, and that doesn't make sense because it should be the opposite. It should be the exact. This guy should be the New York Post, the Toronto Sun. Hopefully, the Toronto Sun makes us happy here. Like we're counting on you, Steve Simmons, man. I just want to see what, but it's crazy that in that kind of position, that kind of job, that a guy can fail like this, fail to do his job and still be handled like that. And your theory is probably right. The reason he is because it's almost as if it's like it wasn't his fault. It's not.
Right.
It's not his fault. And I'm like, well, kind of all is his fault. Like if you think about it, had he not come here and they had $11 more million to spend on other players, it's kind of his fault. But
that's what I've been saying about people online and people like that. That's what their argument is. It's like, well, they signed this guy to the wrong contract at the wrong time, and they've screwed themselves over. Because again, as we all know, they have 5 guys taking up 60% of their cap or whatever the number is. So yeah, I mean, but at the same time, they could always make the argument, well, he's not the goalie. Well, yeah, that's true. But like you said, that $11 million could go a long way. So, but what do we think is next? So I joked in our group chat when we were talking about this, which was a lot of fun, by the way. I said, next is the trade request. That's what I hope the next step is. I doubt it'll happen, but we'll see. You never know. Maybe that happens, or maybe he gets traded at the deadline to somebody, free up a ton of cap space. And again, he's going to be just a guy. Like he's not the captain anymore. He's just a guy. So maybe he does leave, but before that contract is over, which would then you think this is a happy podcast. Wait until that happens.
Yeah, I know.
He gets traded to San Jose in March.
I know. Well, and you said like he is just a guy, and he's also a guy on that expiring contract now. Yep. And one thing that people did very quietly like bring up after on these, it was more in reference to Marner than Tavares, which was these guys have no movement clauses. Can you kind of like strong arm them? Can you make it clear? I remember Kyprios kind of wished a scenario into my head, which is like that they'd like you said, healthy scratch him or play him on the fourth line and make life like make it not so much fun to be a Toronto Maple Leaf for Tavares, to the point where he'd be like, okay, you can trade me finally. But as we know about Tavares, he doesn't want to weaken the team that he gets traded to. He doesn't want them to lose assets.
Exactly.
So like hopefully maybe the best case scenario you're talking about what's next is that this is step one of doing that he is hurt here, because it does is anybody the Wednesday press conference is going to be great, because I want to know if anybody asks him, does this hurt? Like, what does it feel? Will. Yeah. And I really hope so. Because if they don't, I mean, it's just we're talking about an all world level of kid gloves whitewashing, because I can't wait for that answer from Tavares. Because as we've said all along, he's a hockey robot. He's got every answer pre-programmed into him from the second he was drafted by the Islanders through all his, when the Islanders would be going through their usual Wovember 11-2 streak that has them out of the playoff picture by the holidays. It starts with me. I've got to be better. All that. Yeah. I don't think he's got one programmed for this one. Like, that's not a situation I think he'd be ready for. Which is, hey, John, like, does it hurt that you have to lose the captaincy of the team you were supposed to lead to out of the most famous drought in all of hockey, and you've won one game in beyond the first round in 7 years? Like, does that hurt? I don't know if he's got an answer to that, but he is a hockey robot, but he's also a human being. Yeah. And these kind of things, when they do happen, like you lose the captaincy or you get eliminated after from the playoffs again, and you watch the Islanders go to the Eastern Conference Final for the second year in a row, like the thoughts creep into your head, and you can sleep well at night listening to this. That he's thought about it. He's thought about, was this the right decision? And he will be thinking about that on Wednesday. Like he is so far from a human being as you can get, but he still is a human being. And there's not one human being on the planet that isn't on that press conference stage at the Ford Performance Center on Wednesday thinking, man, did I make the right decision?
Yeah.
And now it looks like the answer is wrong. No.
Did anybody ever ask him like what he felt about the Islanders going to those? I don't think they ever did.
No. Well, he never played for the Islanders. He was just there for a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He was just toiling away. He was being held against his will.
That's right.
We can't bring that up. Those are the days he was being held prisoner. It's like asking someone who was wrongly imprisoned if about their time in the clink, and you can't do that.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, he has a full no movement clause, so we ain't going anywhere without his approval. But yeah, I do wonder if this season becomes uncomfortable enough that he's like, you know what, I'm not staying. You guys don't want me to stay here. You want to trade me? I can get a fresh start someplace else, and they could move him, and then they'll pick up somebody. I mean, I don't know if they'll trade him and get somebody directly, or move them and get something else in turn, or whatever. But we shall see. It's it'll be interesting to watch. But I mean, I wonder if the questions start to just get but that's the problem too. Like, not to bring this back, but like, the kid glove treatment means that nobody's going to be like, have you thought about maybe getting traded? Have you thought about maybe waiving?
Have you been approached? Has anyone approached? No, that's
nobody's going to ask him that, or what they'll do is they'll put out a bunch of articles about how he hasn't been approached and how he doesn't want to leave. And he's such a Maple Leaf through and through that he would never, ever contemplate going someplace else.
Oh, yeah. They might even announce an extension on Wednesday, right?
Wow.
And it'll be like a really big discount, which is something I've been waiting. Another thing I've kind of held in and kept pushing deep down inside of me, which is that when Tavares left the Islanders, one of the things that we were told is like, oh, he's going through the free agency process because he's a big players union guy.
Yeah, I remember
that. We were fed that bullshit. Like, he's really into the union, and he wants to show like the other players in the union the power that they have. And if he accepts a deal, let's like for $1 million, for like a 3-year, $3 million deal or something, that weakens the union, right? Because he's not getting what he's worth, and the union would look down on something like that, and we can then say, well, oh yeah, so that was bullshit too. But God, I really hope it's not that. I hope they just they talk about him moving aside, passing the torch, not being stripped. If you use the word stripped, or you ask him about being approached for his no movement clause, it's going to be like one of those press conferences that you see where guys are like, there's like a plant in there, and their security like quickly hustles him out. Like Steve Simmons is going to be dragged away by his arms, two security guards one on each arm.
Yeah,
someone throwing a shoe at him, like George Bush got thrown at.
they're gonna take his pass and like tear it up.
Right.
You're done. You're out. You're out of here. Yeah, no, I don't think they would do that, because again, the Leafs are trying. What they're trying to do here is create the illusion of change, right? Like, yes, they've signed a bunch of guys, right? Oliver Ekman-Larsson is here now, and who else? I'm looking at the Leafs thing here. Yeah, that's about it. No, I'm just who else did they sign? They got somebody else.
They got Tanev. They got Chris
Tanev, and Anthony Stolarz. So like, those guys are fine. I don't know Stolarz, but like, they got those guys. Yeah, Chris Tanev. I don't think they're all that good, but there's somebody. But they're trying to create the illusion that this is a different team, that this is not the team that has lost in the first round in 5 of the last, or 6 of the last 7 years, that this is a team that is truly committed to winning the Stanley Cup, and not just, sneaking into the second round of the playoffs for a week or so and just say hello and then just leave again, and the easiest way for them to do this, now that their salary cap is all, taken up because they have a whole roster, is by changing the captaincy. And so they're going to sell this as it's a new day, it's a new a new era. Auston is here to lead us, and John has done the right thing by, offering and stepping aside and letting Auston carry the torch and yada, yada, yada. But really, it's the same team. And I would be very surprised to see Auston Matthews do anything with this team that John Tavares hasn't already. Now, of course, knock on wood, that's my desk. We'll see what happens, because the Leafs again remain a very, very good team.
Yeah.
But this is a win for
a huge battle.
Schadenfreude. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when at the beginning of World War II, it's we're the good guys and they're the bad guys.
Right.
And this is the Pacific Theater, and we are now the Battle of Midway. It has just flipped into our favor through some luck, stroke of luck, some great job by our code breakers, and we were able to bait and switch the Toronto Maple Leafs, and now we are fully on the offensive. They're the ones that are now on their heels as we go through our island hopping campaign. So it's a massive battle for us. It's a victory. It's a well-earned victory too. Like, every Islander fan that listens to this show, every Islander fan that doesn't listen to the show, that is finding us for the first time, you know where you were and exactly how you felt when Tavares left. And I can see myself, if I close my eyes and think about it, I could see my movements in my old apartment. I remember like the temperature of the day. It was obviously summer day. The whole thing. I remember what I was wearing. I remember my apartment was messy. I had to clean it up. And if you remember all of that, like that is some serious scar tissue that we've been dealing with and continue to deal with by acting the way that fans are supposed to act when stuff like that happens to you. And we've been told what we've been doing is wrong for 5, 6, 7 years now. And this is now a huge step in the right direction, to the point where we're here on a podcast about the New York Islanders, talking about the captaincy of the Toronto Maple Leafs for an hour. But it's a massive thing. It should make you feel good if you're one of us, right? So enjoy it. Like, enjoy that Schadenfreude feeling, and the haterism, drink the haterade, all that, because that's sports, man. Sports are about your team winning and the teams that you hate losing, and that doesn't just have to happen on the field or on the ice. Like, it can happen on the podium at the Ford Performance Center, as we know very well, because we've had a couple massive wins on that podium at the Ford Performance Center over the past couple of years. I would say it's one of my favorite home field advantages. I can't wait. There's nothing that gives me more joy than seeing Brendan Shanahan behind a microphone at the Ford Performance Center, because usually when Brendan Shanahan is behind the microphone at the Ford Performance Center, something good is happening for us.
That's right. If Madison Square Garden is Nassau Coliseum West, then the Ford Performance Center is Nassau Coliseum North. Is our home away from home. We just love to see cool events happening there, and we're gonna get another one on Wednesday. So we'll see. We'll see how this all turns out. Hopefully, it turns out absolutely terribly for John Tavares, and this is a good step in that direction.
Do you think he'll have his family there? Do you think his kids will be on the stage?
If they are, they should be wearing Auston Matthews jersey.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic. I mean, I guess he has to be there, but
if he's not there, I'm going. I'm rooting for him not to be there. He has to be there, but if he's not there, it'll make it so much better, because we'll get more. We have to have respect. You got to respect the privacy. This is a tough time for him and his family. This is the day that he's been dreaming. He was dreaming about being named the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs for his whole career, and to get it to not get it taken away, but to have it, to have him pass the torch, it must be tough. So we're going to respect that. The word respect is going to be fun. I can't wait.
Classy. Oh, is that another one that's going to get thrown out? All right. So I'll tell you this. Okay. So I mentioned this. So we're doing a podcast tomorrow, our Country Club Atmosphere episode. So if you're not a patron, sign up at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety to hear our Country Club episode. We're going to be talking about the Olympics, which just ended. We just did our mailbag, and on our mailbag episode that we did last week, I mentioned that I have jury duty this week, so I wanted to kind of get the mailbag out of the way early. We're getting Country Club Atmosphere out of the way early. I actually have to go jury duty on Thursday, but next week we are free. We're free and clear. So why don't we? Well, here's what we'll do. We will let the stories come out. Right.
We'll respect John Tavares and his
Right.
family, his
We'll respect the
privacy.
decision. We'll let the Leafs water carriers fill their buckets, do their thing, and then how about like next Tuesday? We do have a thing next Thursday. Won't reveal what it is. But let's say next Tuesday we'll get together. We'll do assuming that we have enough material, and I guarantee there will be. We will do a special Master Leaf Theater on the Tavares passing of the torch, and we'll read some of the best selections of that for a special. We'll make that a Patreon only thing. So if you want to get over there, sign up at patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Maybe I'll put out a little teaser to get people in there, but we do stuff all summer long. So trust me, your money is well worth the expenditure, and this is going to be a lot of fun. But we got to give them a couple of days. Give them a couple of days to work it out, and then we'll get some good stuff going on.
I can't wait. I mean, it's almost like one of those situations where a cabinet is being called back, or a caucus, or when the Cardinals for when the Pope and the smoke billows out of that chimney in Rome. All these guys they're leaving the cottages right now. I can tell you that Pierre LeBrun, he's kissing his wife and kids goodbye. Dad's got to go away for a little while. I know I promised you that I'd be up in the cottage for the summer, but duty calls, and what are we if not here to serve the greater good, which is the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, and they're all just driving down. Maybe like some men in suits or Royal Mounted Canadian uniforms knocked on their door and just had like suitcases. So, Mr. The Brown, we need you at the Ford Performance Center. And he just got into the car, and it was definitely raining, and he waved out the window to his family as he was driving down the cottage. And same with James Myrtle and Jonas Siegel. They're all packing. I like to think of one of them packing their suitcase as if like the cops were descending on their house. And one of those scenes in the movies where they're just like grabbing stuff out of their closet and throwing it in one of those retro suitcases with the clip and like the old like pastel colored suitcases. He's like, I just gotta go.
Somebody's getting a helicopter. Like somebody,
So,
probably LeBrun would get the helicopter treatment. Yeah, right. Or Frege would get.
I got LeBrun with those helicopter earphones on.
Yeah,
waving out to everybody in Muskoka.
Yeah,
it's been a great summer, but duty calls.
Yeah. It'd be like the opening of MASH, And it's probably so. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you've been listening to a lot of other history podcasts as well, because I feel like you're in that kind of like history mode.
I mean, when you don't have hockey going on,
I guess that's true.
I'm in the throes of the French Revolution right now.
Hard
to draw any analogies to the French Revolution. I guess the Islanders fans are the citizens out there overthrowing, but
that's pretty
it's a lot easier in my bread and butter is World War I and World War II analogies that make no sense to anybody but myself in my head as I'm saying them and hoping that I'm not going to get in trouble.
Because it's funny, because like when I think of a bunch of people all coming together to do one thing, I picture the opening of not the opening, but like the scenes in Voltron when all the pilots scramble to their different Lion ships and they all fly out from different places. So like one guy's underneath a volcano, one guy's under the water, and they all fly together to the castle and they all become Voltron.
Yeah.
So that's
exactly the same. That's what I'm picturing right now. These guys just on the highways in Canada right now, just in a 1960s style car, headlights out. They're the only ones on the road, descending on the city for this monumental event.
Or if you're more on my wavelength, Pierre LeBrun is in the Black Lion, Frege is in the Blue Lion, Myrtle's in like the Yellow Lion, Dreger's in the Green Lion, that kind of thing. So,
oh my God, I can't wait. It's a shame. If you're a Leafs hater and somehow you get into that press conference, can you just do us all a favor and set up a camera, set up your phone, but face the camera around the other way discreetly so we can watch. I want to watch CJ and Luke Fox-Stroop, but I want to watch them during the press conference. The Kleenex, man. Buy stock in Kleenex on the Canadian Stock Exchange, because there's definitely going to be some tears in the Ford Performance Center meeting room on Wednesday. You thought that the Dubas presser was emotional. I mean, they were,
Mm,
and it was, as Jonas Siegel told us, there were people that acted as if they
right.
were terrified. They were like fearing for their lives because Kyle Dubas got fired. Um, in one of the most famous Master Leaf theaters ever. I think we might see something get one upped here.
Mm,
The historical weight of this moment is massive, and it's not bigger for anybody more than Islander fans.
yeah.
It's a huge deal, and nobody's gonna understand it but us. But this is a huge day on Wednesday. It was a
Definitely.
huge night for us here on August the 12th. It was just a huge win for us. So thank you to whoever made this decision out there, and thank you to Darren Dreger for really
Yeah,
brightening up a nice summer evening, taking a nice summer evening and turning it into an unforgettable one.
definitely. It's just again, we got to wrap this up, but
Do we though? I mean, I could talk about this particular subject for 3-4 more hours and wake up in the morning and do it all over again.
well, I was going to say that the fact that Drager was the one to tweet it out almost certainly means that agent Pat Brisson was the one
Yeah.
that told him that this was happening, which means that like this has been kind of probably in the works for quite a while. So
They
yeah.
definitely had a meeting. It was probably
Oh, yeah.
Tree Living, Brisson, and
Yeah.
Darren Dreger at a coffee shop, a clandestine meeting
Yeah.
in one of the cottage towns in
Yeah.
northern Ontario.
I think
Uh,
Brisson, Treliving, and Tavares all took a walk around John's pool, and Treliving said, "John, if you don't give up the sea, that pool is going to be the last thing you're gonna see in your life is me from the inside of that pool." And he went, "You know what, Brad? I think it's a good idea. They're not going to give up the sea."
just as long as you say I stepped aside, please don't say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? And remembering Tavares is infamous and really offensive, if I could say so myself, article in the Players Tribune. I
Oh my
remember
God.
his first. I'm going to read the lead. His
Oh,
first sentence, and it's something I keep thinking about as I've been talking this entire time. In italics. Am I having a breakdown? Question mark. That's how I feel right now. I feel like I'm so happy in this. I'm worried about my own mental sanity about
yeah.
how happy I am doing this podcast. But
Yeah.
yeah, to the Islanders faithful, shove that right up your ass, buddy, and enjoy the A, and enjoy that A coming to your chest. Thanks for reading. Thanks for caring. Thanks for everything.
Yeah.
Signature, John.
Nice. I hope it's a rotating A, and he's only like,
Yeah.
I hope he's,
He doesn't get one. We haven't decided who the leadership group is going to be.
right. You'll have the A at home, and David Kemp will have it on the road. David Kemp, he just got here. What are you talking about? Anyway, this could go a million different ways. We'll have to see what happens on Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening. Again, Country Club Atmosphere comes out Wednesday only at the Patreon. So sign up at patreon.com/islandersanxiety. We're going to do a Master Leaf Theater of all this stuff. Hopefully next week. Again, it depends on the stuff we get, but I think we'll be in pretty good shape. And I alluded to it before. I might as well just say it. We're going to start recording Weird Islanders podcast coming up. Get those episodes ready for next season. So we're very excited. We got our first couple of guests booked, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you for hanging out with us. We'll be back very shortly, I think. Well, definitely, because we're going to be talking tomorrow night. And that's about it. Oh, Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
You can find me at the Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. Read and listen to his work at Action Network. I almost completely forgot our usual sign off here. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day, all summer long, for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Shop VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. Our theme song normally is by Family Dinner, who have a new record coming out this Friday. So check them out. And we will talk to you again shortly. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.